Oh, you're a little bit wonky. Oh, crikey. This could all go Pete Tong. Oh. How come, I do apologise people are watching this again tomorrow, but how come when you're trying to be a professional, your phone doesn't want to work? What is going on? There we go. Hello. Right, do you know, keep slipping. Bear with me. Now, you stop it. Stop it. I'm not allowed to talk. I'm slipping again. I'm slipping again. Hold on a second. That's a bit better. Oh, God. So, yeah. Oh, isn't it horrible outside? So, what was going to say? Welcome. Joe here at Willie Cottage. It's part 3. Is it we on part 3 or is it part 4? No, first, a minute, let me think. First week was talking about it and doing the dyeing. Then I did the blending. What was that last week? What did I do last week? Chatting. I think blending last week. You know, I'm losing track of my weeks. And then this week is spinning. So yeah, so I am spinning my batt that I blended up on one of the other previous videos. So I'm just gonna roll it over, stretch it out, and then I'm gonna sit here and prep it up. So if you want to have a natter with me, ask any questions about what it is that I'm doing. The pattern, I've just been hunting for my pattern for my jacket. I think it's upstairs in my workshop. I thought it was in the studio, but I must have tucked it inside one of the other weaving books the other week. So this is what I have got to play with. I did post a picture of it on my Instagram the other week. So it's blues. It looks like an animal fur. But to be fair, it has spun up really, really nicely. Bear with me a second. I'll go and get the wool and I'll go and stick the light on as well because it's really quite dark. I'm all right for now. But bear with me a second. Oh dear. Here we go. So that is the wool that I have actually spun up from this batt, and it's quite deceiving. It has actually got, can't see, can you really? I do apologise about the light. It looks mostly brown, but it's not. It's got this gorgeous, it's been plied with this really pretty copper cone of linen, about 600 metres. I will need, or 600 yards. I will need to order myself another one. I've actually spun up another 100 gram batt of that, and it's sat on the bobbin down here. I just need to ply this up. So that's potentially 240 yards of fibre there. Hopefully I'm getting about the same here today. So for my jacket, stop it, I need just shy of 3.4 yards to be able to create it, but you've got to take into account obviously the ends, so an extra 10, maybe 12 on my weave master behind me. I don't quite need that full 12 inches of length at the end and at the beginning. In comparison to using my rigid heddle loom, there's actually quite a short gap in between from the front and the back. So I really don't think I need as much as 12 at the bottom, at the beginning and at the end. So I'd probably maybe stick to around about 8 to 10 inches just from my waist. Then I've got to take into consideration the shrinkage, so it's roughly between 10 to 13%, depending on what type of fibres you're using. When I find that when I'm using a linen plied wool blend, this has got silks in it. It has got merino, trying to think, merino alpaca, bamboo, merino alpaca bamboo, a merino silk, an alpaca silk blend, and merino and flax with silk in it. So a lot of those fibres that I'm using do not have a massive reduction in shrink. They're quite, so it might oh, what's the word I'm looking for? It might crimple a little bit, but I very much doubt it, because I have woven these very similar fibres before on a lovely little pink shawl that I've got in my workshop, and I did that on my rigid header loom, and it shrunk a bit, but definitely not as much as 10%. But then I was very ginger about it. I didn't want to give it a good bashing around in case I overworked it. But yeah, so I've got this already. That's done. So I'm going to sit here and do this. I'm just going to rip this into sections. Oh, caught on me flaming flyer. So yeah, I'm just the prep I did last week on how to prep your bats. So I cut, if you watched it last week, it was different ways of prepping your bat to spin with ease. So I'm just going to tilt this down a little bit. There we go, so you can see it's sat on my knee. So I'm just literally going to pull them into sections about the same all the way down until I make an elbow, and then come back up on myself. Right, so I do apologise in advance if I lose the signal. I have to come back on. The weather is, as in the rest of the UK, really quite bad today. We may get a power cut because our electric's actually on an old, one of the original electric lines. We've never been put onto the modern ones. So when we get power outages a couple of times every winter where I live. So like my little village here, Lauca, the old part of Parton down on the beach, not the top part where the council houses are, but the old one, that one, and Dislington, which is just across the motorway, we're all the same old-fashioned electric circuit. So when we get a power outage, Dislington does, and Old Parton does down on the beach. So I've got my candles ready. I've got all my batteries charged. So I'm fine. Just keep doing this and stripping up. So there is a slight gradient in this bat. I say slight, there is definitely a gradient. So I've started with a darker blue, like I explained when I was blending it the other week. And then so I'm just going to draft out these sections now, and then I'm going to braid it all so I can work with it easier. So there's a dark blue, and on top of the dark blue is a brown alpaca. And then there's the mid blue, and on top of the mid blue, going in another gradient on another layer, is the alpaca silk blend. And then on the lighter tealy blue at the other end of the gradient, I've put the fawn alpaca on that place there. Hello, whoever that is, has just popped on now. I'm just beginning to think I was talking to myself. It's really hard when you do, but if you're watching this again tomorrow, it's really hard talking to yourself on a live chat. So I'm just stretching these out of the elbow joints before I get spinning this up. So I'm just prepping my bat before I start spinning. I'll grab a hold of that elbow joint again, just draft out, and then everything's all pre-drafted before I start. If you've got any questions or queries, or you want me to explain exactly what it is that I'm doing, if you've never seen any of my live chats or heard me talk about my swag along, if you're new, please just drop a comment on. I'll be able to see it. Or say hi. Introduce yourself if you're new. I'm just drafting this out. As I say, that last week on my Wednesday video uploads, I showed how I'd prep my batts in different ways. And then today there was another video that went on to do a fractal preparation of an art batt, so you can do fractal yarn. So I've put that on there today, so it just takes a little bit of time and faffing around. And then I will braid this in a second. End up looking like I've got cousin It sat on my knee. So yeah, this is my project for my woven jacket. So I do know that I needed 16.3 inches or something like that, or 16.25 inches for my actual warp. I'm going for 17 in a little bit. I need 242 warp ends. Stop it, warp ends for my weave, but I'm going up to 250. I thought I'll even it off. Stop it. I need 3.4 yards, but I'm going to go up to 4 yards. Hi Anne, my tulips, they were actually a gift from a new neighbour, because there's a guy moved in, bought a house up the top of the street. His name's Nick, if he watches later on. He just moved in and bought a house up the top of the street, old Olive's house. She moved into a home last year, 93, smoked 60 a day. I tell you, and she's still kicking. She's up at the old folks home in town. And he bought her house from the Housing Association. So I think since about September, October, he was trying to buy the house next door but one. But that house sale's fallen through a couple of times. But yeah, so we've helped him out a couple of times, and then he moved his stuff up, and Phil's helped him out, and I helped him with his bits and pieces and stuff, and he's been round for his tea and that. So yeah, my flowers are a little thank you for helping him out, because I'm like that. We're living we're living in a village on the west coast, east coast. No, it isn't. It's west coast, isn't it? Of Cumbria. And I've lived in Scotland as well, so I've lived in communities where they can be quite hard sometimes to allow you in. I was quite fortunate when I moved on this street, apart from one who used to call me Mrs. Bouquet, which I never found amusing. It was haha the first couple of times, but after that it was like, right, yeah, my name's Joe, J-O, not Bouquet. So yeah, but I've been welcomed with open arms on this street, but then I'm quite down to earth. And I keep myself to myself to some respects. I'll go up and pop up and see my mate Julie up the top of the street, have a natter with her husband Martin, and his nephew works with Phil at Iceland's now as a driver. So yeah, we settle in quite well. But when you're an outsider, you're not from the area anyway. Phil's mum and dad live up here, and his dad's side of the family, his English side, go back in Whitehaven generations, I mean hundreds of years. And then you've got his Scottish side of the family, which was his granny, and her family moved down here at the beginning of the last century, and they lived down in Old Parton. And then they moved, the girls, when they all left home, they moved up here to Lauca. So Phil has got family, though he's not in touch with them all. He does have family in and around the community, and I'm a northerner. So what can you go wrong with a half English, half Highland Scots northerner who spent most of her life living in Europe or in Ireland or in Wales, as well as Scotland. So yeah, so I'm just going to get on with spinning this. So yeah, what was I talking about? So right, I need 250 warp ends. I need roughly, or just shy of 3.5 yards in length. So I am going to go up to 4 or just over 4 yards of fabric that I'm needing. So if I was to times that by 4, that's 200, that's 1,000 yards I need to warp up that loom over there to be 17 inches. So far I have got 242. And 242 is where I've got to. I have got another bobbin down here that needs to be plied off. And I've got this much linen left. So I need to order some tomorrow when Phil's wages go into the bank. What day are we on? Wednesday or Thursday? I think we're on Wednesday, aren't we? Yes, we are. Do you know, Joe, you need to have a word with yourself. So yeah, I'll need to order some more, probably Friday, unless I can touch some money out my PayPal. And get some more of that linen ordered. Then I've got more than enough to be able to do what I'm doing. Because that's just, I've used just under half of that warping, plying that woven, that woven up, that warp yarn up the other day. So I need a bobbin. Oh, so yeah, so I'm going to need approximately 1,000 yards. I have brought my weaving book down, and I will read out the explanation for anybody that doesn't have any books at home or are new to this. But I do recommend, trying to think, what places can you buy these books from? So weaving books, there's a book, Weaver's Guide, and what's the one I've got down there? You've got the Weaver's Guide by Interweave that you can buy for about £24. And then you've got this one, which is actually the Hand Weaver's Pattern Book. I know it's back to front, but the Hand Weaver's Pattern Book by Anne Dixon. And it's a really good book to buy. It gives you all the basic explanations. It's mostly, this one's mostly directed at shaft looms and floor looms, organised by type for basic 4-shaft structures, block drafts and double weaves. Herringbone. So there's different types of patterns and swatches and basic explanations, but the best book to get if you've got a rigid header loom is to get the Hand Weaver's book, and that's by Interweave, and you can buy them second hand. I just sold mine when I got it, went with my loom when I sold that the other month, and I got mine for £24.99 from Wing and Wool. You can go to double check with the Threshing Barn, they might have a copy. Where else? Adelaide Walker, Weft Blown up in West Kilbride. The Hand Weaver Studio down in London is another good place to maybe look for books and things like that. Or those basic books, the Spin to Weave books that I buy in, just as a good reference book that you don't have to sit there and trudge through. The information is within the first couple of pages. Everything's there for you. So I'm just going to start this off, and then I'll natter about. Oh, where's my end? Do you know, I'm all of a muddle today, and you would think I've been busy. I haven't. I've been sat watching Incredible Tiny Homes again, and I found a new Norwegian blogger on YouTube that's got her own place. So I've been watching that, and I'm just going to point you down a little. Well, a natter. Oh dear. So, Anne, did you enjoy? Have you watched the new video? The one about the gradient. There we go. The gradient spinning. I never thought I was going to get that finished yesterday. I was losing the light so rapidly, and the weather was changing. I was like, I'm never going to get this done. And I can only sit and do something like literally an hour's spinning, and then I've got to move again because my back muscles are really doing me a disservice this winter. My fibres really playing me up. I swear I get worse and worse year after year. So yeah, so it was a really good, I enjoyed doing the video. It just takes a bit of time to get them together when you do those spinning ones. So it's just, yeah, they can be a little bit full on. But next week it'll be Batty Club video that'll be coming up on the YouTube channel anyway for next Wednesday's upload. So yeah, just trying to keep busy, that's all. So hopefully, and that video will help you get out of a bit of a sticky wicket when it comes to the roving that you messaged me about last night. Maybe be able to help. Actually, I'll see if you want me to, if I can find the video that I did last summer about blending ugly bats. And I think I did do a video of rejuvenating an ugly bat into 3 different bats that have completely different colourways. Though they're all from the same thing, they've all got their own 3 individual characters. That's definitely a good video to go and hunt up. I love how this spins up with this alpaca in it. It's just so airy fairy to spin, and I can get a lovely thin yarn from it as well. The thinner the better at the moment if I need 1,000 yards. Fire questions at me. If you've got anything you're thinking about or you want bounce ideas off me, then let me know, because otherwise it's just me sat here spinning. Which is actually spinning up as a lace weight, which I really love. I think on that yarn I've ended up getting it. It's not quite a DK, but it's not quite, I missed that. It's not quite a DK, but it's not quite a oh, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not quite a 4-ply, like that density, but it'll have the really lovely drape on it. Tell you what, half term this week and it is the worst weather ever. I can hear the beach from my back door even over the 50-mile-an-hour winds. That's how bad it is here. And finally Doglet's finished a heat, so, but there's no way I'm walking down there today. The tide will be all the way up to the footbridge. I know that comment was just left, and I actually top chat. Right. No, I can't see the chats. So annoying. So unless I actually looking up at the same time, I can't see them. I mean, we got the GoPro out last night and we can't get that going. Apparently the older models aren't included in the new apps. So I was thinking about doing my GoPro. So because I always get asked, oh Joe, can you do some videos when you're out and about or where you live? And my phone battery only lasts for so long. It doesn't quite make it the 3-mile walk into Whitehaven. So I'm going to have to sort of think what I need to do. Because we've got actually quite a good, there's quite a really random history in Whitehaven. We've had the German U-boats fire at us here. We've had Americans invade in Whitehaven, which is a bit of a claim to fame, but I'm not going to go into any more of that. And then you've got George Washington's grandmother was from Whitehaven and she's buried in town. There's actually the house that she lived in still stands to this day, and there's a blue plaque on it. And the actual the layout of town was the very first seaside videos would be wonderful, please. Yeah, I will be doing some when the weather starts getting a lot better. I will, because there's so, our town is just riddled. You wouldn't think it to look at it, because it looks so tired and dilapidated, and there's more charity shops and nail bars and hair salons and cafes than there is any actual shops. But the layout, the modern layout of the town is actually done on a Georgian town plan. So all the houses in town are all either second or first grade listed buildings, and the actual layout for the town in different lines with squares in between, like courtyards and things like that, is the first time that it was any town had ever been laid out like that. It was the very first. And then New York and Chicago took the exact same type of plan of the way that streets went with the blocks in between and put it in New York City and in Chicago, from the same sort of street planner, this British architect. So yeah, so it's unique in its own right in the way that it was designed, and there was no other town that was like that. Even Liverpool hadn't even done that yet. Liverpool actually came along later and stole all the trade from Whitehaven, and Whitehaven used to be the second busiest port to London before 1860, and that's roughly about the time, 1850, 1860 is about the time that Liverpool and Glasgow, the ports, started bringing in their own industry and getting bigger and bigger, and they were stealing a lot of the trade away from Whitehaven, to the point that all we were bringing, exporting was coal. But we used to have one of the biggest rum importers, sugar cane, all sorts, cottons, the mills and everything used to come through Whitehaven to get to the north of the countries, coming in off the Atlantic. So yeah, it's got a lot of history, but I will definitely, because I love history, but I will definitely do some videos on that on some quiet days when there's not many people around, because people look at you funny around here when you do things that are completely different from everybody else. So it's been a really quiet week. Phil's knackered. He's had a long week. He's not had a day off since last Wednesday. So he's shattered. But he's getting over being 60. Just don't mention it anymore. And his head is still 50. I love spinning this fibre. It's such a pretty blend to mix, and the fact that when I wash it there's not much shrinkage is always a bonus. Right, where we are, quarter of my bobbin now. So I shall just grab my book and I will go over the complexities again of warping for anybody that never saw my explanation. I think I was going on about that on Saturday, I think, on my Instagram live chat. I do feel like sometimes I repeat myself, but not many people use YouTube, and then some people don't use Instagram. So it's 6.5 a dozen really. So if I just grab my book and give it another mention as to how I need to work out what I need to do. So obviously, the other book that I had last week when we were talking about it had a bit more detail. So like, if you're using a DK, oh god, look at the length of this braid, it's like a snake, it doesn't stop. If you're using a DK yarn, then you're going to use a different type of heddle. So with the DK yarn, you could be looking at a 7.5 to a 10, depending on what type of fibre you've got. I can get a DK definitely in a 10. It always works off a little bit tight to start with, but it soon loosens off, especially if you've washed it. It relaxes and it's not got that massive bloom in it. And then if you're looking at lace weight, I'm spinning 2, lots of temp before making the remaining braid into a batt, definitely. Or braid, just do what you're doing now with your roving in singles, and then when you make the batt, ply that off against that and see how that comes out. Yeah, so if you're looking, DK is roughly a 7.5 to a 10. Fingering weight and lace weight, you definitely want to be looking at a 12 heddle. Is it a 12.5? Though that's not to say that you don't do it in a small, in a 10, depending on what you're looking at. But you've got to remember that if you're using really thin yarns in a bigger heddle, then it's going to really close in on itself, or it's going to be really quite loosey-goosey and going to have transparency holes in between the weave. It's not going to be tight and rigid up to each other. But then if you're using textured yarns in with that as well, it will soon bulk it out. So I'm using, my yarn, I would say, is a cross between a fingering weight and a DK. So my heddle loom is I'm positive it's a 10. It could be a 12, but I think it's a 10. But then if I counted between 17 inches was 242. So I could be looking at a 12. I'll have to message Jess and ask her what the heddle was on that again. So yeah, So I found this explanation in here, warp calculations. Here we go again. This is when my brain starts to hurt. Okay, so for an example, for a finished fabric measuring 15 inches wide and 4 yards long, woven from a 2-ply yarn that measures 18 wraps per inch, which is WPI, I will plan a set for 15 ends per inch EPI. So when she's talking about that, you want to, what you want to do is if you've spun up all your yarn for your weft and you spun up all your yarn for your warp, she wants you to get a ruler, all right, a warp guide that's got an inch marker on it. Wrap it around both of those threads, so both your weft and your warp. Wrap them both around, and that will give you until you get to the end of the inch. Don't do it tight. You don't have to do it tight. Just wrap it around like you would do if you wrap it around your finger. Both those warp ends and wefts, wrap them around for the inch. Count them towards the end, and then see how many you come out with. And that will give you a rough guide of how much warps per inch and EPI that you're going to need, and it will judge the type of heddle that you need and how much quantity of wool you're going to need. Okay, so I will typically plan for about 10% widthwise draw in due to the interlacement of the weft and warp, and about 3.5% shrinkage due to washing and filling, and for a full widthwise loss of 13%. So what she's on about is when she washes it. So if you're doing it all in a wool fibres and no other blends in there that don't shrink that much through agitation or when you're filling it, then that's probably about the max that you're looking at. I'll also plan for about 4% take up due to the interlacement of the weft and the warp, and the 8% shrinkage for a total loss of 12% plus 1 yard due to loss of loom waste. So your loom waste is what you tie up your back beam and your front beam. So a lot of people say do about 12 inches. I think that's a bit excessive. I always try and look for about 10 to 8. Once I've tied it up and it's sitting about 2-3 inches away from my front beam, then I'm quite happy with that. Maybe it's going to be stingy, and and there's an amount of wool that you've got to spin up to be able to do these things. They don't take that into consideration, do they? So 15 inches finished width plus 13% drawing and shrinkage is 16.95, which is going to round up to 17 inches. To get a finished length of 4 yards, our total warp length will be 4 yards finished by finished length of 12%, so that will be 17.3 inches, and a take-up shrinkage plus 1 yard, which will be 0.9 meters loom waste. So she's looking for 5.5 yards in total. To calculate the number of individual warp ends, she'll multiply 17 with width in reed with EPI of 15, so she'll end up with 255 warp ends altogether. Calculate the number of yards per warp needed, 55 warp ends totals in total, times by 5.5, which is your yardage, and she'll end up needing 1,402 yards. So yeah, so that gives her a minimum amount of warp yarn to spin, but always spin extra for sampling at the beginning of a warp and to test the method of finishing. So yeah, so some people will quite happily warp up the loom and give themselves about a yard to do a sample, and then they'll take that off and re-tie up the ends on the front bar, and then once they've washed it and fooled it and seen what it looks like, then they know where to make some adjustments. So that's generally it. It's a lot of gobbledygook to me. I just make sure that I know and give a bit of extra on top for my warp, work out how much I need on that if it's not already in my instructions, and then I figure out my width of my fabric that I need, which is generally just count the heddle. Count the gaps in the heddle is what I generally end up doing. Marking off the distance I need, which is what I did on my heddle the other week. And tie it off at 17. Count all the slots in between. And then I know how many I need. And then times that by the amount of yardage I need. So mine, as I say, is 242. I'm giving myself an allowance of about 4 yards in total for the length of my fabric. So I mean that roughly brings me up to about 1,000. But what I'll do is I will warp up these 300-gram rovings that I've got here. I'll warp them up onto my loom. Start doing that maybe next week if I haven't got them all done, and then see where I am from there. I may need to spin up another, but at least that way I don't want to overspin, because what I might do with my batts that I've got left over upstairs is dilute them down with some more wool, so I can create an extra amount of extra weight in my batts. Maybe add on an extra one or something. So I might divide them up and add in a bit more brown or a bit more cream or even a bit more blue for my weft, just to bulk it out of what I need, because by the time you get to 1,000, that's roughly 400 grams I've already spun up. Just for talk's sake, I need another half, another 50 grams spun up to finish off my warping, and then I should end up with about 300 grams left over. So what I might do is, to say, just expand on those three, make it into 400 grams or something like that. Doesn't mean I have to spin them up. I can spin up as I go, but at least that way, in my mind's eye, then when if I have to do another 100 grams spin up, then I've already diluted down the colourway that I wanted in the first place, so I can make sure that I've got more than enough for what I'm looking for, instead of leaving myself short and ending up having to go and try and replicate the colour blend that I'm using for my weft and ending up with a very distinct colour difference, and I don't want to be doing that. So that's probably what I will end up doing once I've got all these done and it's warped up. Then I'll know exactly where I am when it comes to creating enough yarn for my warp. I mean, who's to say that I don't get some blue linen? Have you 3 people on live? I know I've only got 3 people on live. I've been on for about 37 minutes. I did do about 10-15 minutes just sat talking to myself. I know. Hey ho. Some people are at work. Some people are busy because it's half term and they've got kids underfoot and they never get any peace and quiet. But this video will get uploaded and it'll be on my YouTube tomorrow, and I know people will get a chance to sit and watch it in their own time, in bed with earphones on. That's generally when I watch my podcasters, is at night time with my earphones on. Just the way of life when you're a tiny little YouTuber. You did have 4, and back down to 2 again. I like when people leave comments. It makes me sound really popular. State the obvious, yes, I know I'm only talking to 1 or 2 people. I've only got 114 followers. Though if you go onto my Instagram, I've got 1,020 something on my followers on my Instagram, and on my live chats, and I always end up with about 4, maybe 5 people. Some people just don't like watching live chats. And what's hard is doing a live chat when you're talking to yourself. And on YouTube, you can't see the comments clearly. They don't sit and thingy for long. I literally end up with this. But it's a good chat and you enjoy it. Thank you very much, Anne. Yeah, sometimes people need to just keep the comments to themselves. At the end of the day, what I do is a niche thing. I'm not a farmer or a homesteader. I'm a fibercraft producer. Not everybody's into doing fibercrafts, are they? I'm definitely getting a lot more viewings on my videos though, which is always a good thing. Some of the ones I've done recently, the last couple of weeks, I've ended up with like 40, nearly 50 views. Which one got me 50 views? Just, I think it was nearly 100 views. It might have been my Christmas ugly bat. And I've been doing this, it's been nearly a year now I've been doing YouTube videos. And I maybe sit about 10, 20 viewings on any one video. And turning that Christmas ugly bat into something different got me 100 viewings. But nobody ever does the thumbs up. People come and watch them. I always do my thumbs up when I watch my YouTube videos. Always do, because I'm a good girl. So what we at now, 40. So yeah, I think that's about all I can really cover on this, because it's all about, really, you've got to figure it out for yourself, because if you're doing patterns, then you're all going to have your own different outtakes on what it is that your requirements are for doing your patterns. If you've got one of those hand weaving books and it's got patterns in the back of it, like some of them do, then it's going to have different requirements for you to do on there. You may be creating your own pattern that you want to do, that you've used, as I've mentioned before. Get yourself some lining paper, some cheap lining paper out of a budget shop for about £1, and then work out your pattern on there, the length that you're going to be using your warpat. Lay up your panel in the section and see if you can sort of stop it from creating a wastage, because at the end of the day, that wallpaper is going to be the right width. Takes time to build up the numbers. Kate at last homely took about 2-3 years to build. Well, I was on Instagram since 2015, and I started off on there doing my photography, and the last four years I've been on Instagram, and just in the last year I've climbed from 432 to where I'm at now, just over 1,000, just in the last 6 months, 9 months. I would say it's more from when I started doing my live chats. That's when I've got more viewers. So yeah, it does take time. At the end of the day, I don't pay for advertising. I don't sell my works anywhere else but on my own website. I don't take them to a shop and spend a fortune on promoting them and paying them fees and commission fees and shelf space and everything else. I did try it, but it was just an absolute rip-off. So no, I am self-motivated, self-employed. I don't get an hourly wage. Me and Phil worked out last month I earned 50p a day for the amount of work that I did, the hours I've put in. 50p a day. I don't know. I must be doing it for the love of it, because it's definitely not for the financial aspects. I'll never get rich quick. So yeah. Oh dear. Well, definitely going to be doing the pop-up wool show in August, Anne, over in Liverpool at Merseyside at Hume Hall on the Port Sunlight. So I've just had a message from Liz, and she's definitely coming to share a stand with me, so we'll have a table each in the same booth, so that'll be cool. So I'm definitely going to do that. So I've just got to sort out my application and get it over to Graham, which will be good, and it'll be my first one ever live show. You're terrible, you just wing it, Emma. Yeah, that's all it is. It's like trial and error. You can do all the maths you want in the world, but that doesn't mean it's all going to go right at the end, does it? It definitely doesn't. What's the point of putting yourself through all that headache and pain if you're not going to enjoy the process? And that's what it's about. It's about enjoying it and seeing your own creativity and implemented in something that's going to come out looking really, really lovely or really rubbish. And then you're going to learn from your mistakes, and you'll know exactly where it was you went wrong the first time round, and the next time you'll enjoy it more because you've learned from it. And that's what it's all about. You don't have to be, as I always say, I'm trying to get the words right, master of none. Is it jack of trades but master of none? But it's better than being master of one. So a little bit of everything. I can sew, and I've been sewing since I was 13, but I'm not a seamstress. I can do woodwork and carpentry. Good bit far drive from Cambridge. Oh, sweetie, I didn't realise you. Do you know? I should have realised you were all the way down there. Yeah, I can do anything crafty. I can put tiles on the wall. I can put laminate floor tiles down. I can actually do carpentry and put parquet flooring down. But I wouldn't sell my trade for somebody else. I can do a bit of everything, but I'm not a master of it. And that's the same way I think when I'm looking at weaving. I know a bit and I know enough to be able to pull something off. Miles from the sea too. Yeah, yeah, it is. Well, no, Cambridge isn't. We've been down. We went on me and Phil went on a pilgrimage because I love. There's a character called Hereward, and he's a folklore hero, and I've got all the books up there. There's a trilogy. It might even be 4 books, by an author called Stuart Binns, and he did the first trilogy set of books on Hereward of Bourne, who was actually based to traditional stories, Ely in Cambridgeshire. You know exactly where I'm on about. So me and Phil went, and we went to the museum where they've got an area dedicated to Hereward. So we went there, and he's my folklore hero. I absolutely love the books that Stuart Binns did about him, and then it goes on to the Battle of Hastings, and then it goes on to anarchy, and like when the royals are all against each other and the French battles and stuff like that. And it goes through from Hereward, and then his I think it's his son or his grandson takes on the mantle of this family quest, it turns into. And there's some really good story, laughing bits in it, and it's just really, really good. And I just fell in love with his character because he's a bit of a rogue, but he's a good rogue. Yeah, and he ends up in Northern Africa and part of the vanguard down there as well. So folklore history from Cambridge. But Ely's lovely. I really like Ely. We went there. When would it be now? It'd be about, oh crikey, when we lived down in Hampshire. So we went up there. It'd be about 5 years ago now since we last went there. But I do like it over that way of the country. We went to Oxford. Don't like Oxford in comparison to Cambridge city centre. I prefer Cambridge. And you have the most amazing buses on the way into Cambridge. They're like trains. I'm doing amazing. Oh, thank you very much, Emma. I really do appreciate that. Then in Cambridge, when you go into the city centre, you do park and ride, and you get on a bus, and it ends up on railway tracks. And it goes through, it's really weird, because like they go onto the railway tracks, and it sits there for a minute, and then it connects the electric cable, and then the wheels lift off the ground, and the railway tracks go down. It's flipping brilliant. I've never been on, I mean, I've lived in Germany, and we went on, used to go on trams quite a lot, and the bendy buses and stuff like that. But I'd never been on a convertible bus to a tram before. Loved it. But Cambridge is stunning. I love Cambridge city centre. Really, really nice. And actually, I'm sure I've got some photos. Ely's lovely. Yeah, Ely's gorgeous. I love the big brick red. Is it a cathedral that's in Ely? I never managed to get in there, but I have been. But it's lovely. Definitely go back there again. And you've got the old prison, which is a museum there as well. So obviously I've got a picture of filling the stocks, as you do. So yeah, so this will be me. I'll probably sit and do a bit more longer than this. I'm going to grab a sip of my tea because my throat's killing me. A sip of my tea. I've got about 10 minutes left at this before YouTube actually kicks me off. Broke my handle on my teapot today. One was not amused. Oh dear. So yes, so I'm going to get this spun off today, and then I will ply it off with my linen, see how much I've got left over, see if I've got enough to do the next one, and then that'll be about 900 yards then. So I would say I might get away with one more roving. That'll be 3, 4 altogether, and see where we get with that, warping that next week. And then I'll probably have to order myself another cone, but I need to decide, do I want to go with a blue linen, like a deep denim blue? Actually on Airedale Yarns, they have got this cone in, like, it looks like a dusky denim blue. It looks like it's slightly two-toned. So I'm wondering whether I should do that for my weft to give it, so it doesn't look so dominantly brown. So I'm having a think on that. I might do that especially if I'm going to dilute down the fibres that I've got left upstairs for doing my weft warping. Might add in a bit more blue, but then I could get away with a bit more brown doing that, you see. If I'm using a blue linen to apply against it, then the brown will pop a bit more. But this one, with the blue's definitely popped out on this fibre. I really do like the way that it's draping. And I've got that good with me spinning now. I literally don't even have to wash my yarn when it comes off, because it's just got such a lovely balance to it. I've definitely got my treadle feet down to pat. I mean, I've only had 5 years to practice it, and I genuinely don't spin that often. I haven't got the time. And by the time I finish, like yesterday was 6 hours working after editing the video, and Monday I'd been working since 6:30 up in the workshop, getting all the batts done. So I finished at 2 o'clock. Phil hadn't long come back from work. So that was another 6.5 hours. And then when I do my dyeing days, which is tomorrow, and I've got batty clubs to do as well. So that's about a 10-hour day on Thursday. Probably 5-hour day on Friday, because I usually go and do my shopping. So yeah, it's just so many hours. So many hours. Yeah, so batty clubs for next week to get sorted out. Next month I'm doing llama. But I'm doing a blended llama, because spinning llama on its own, unless you actually used to spinning it, because you have to, the best way to do that is to fold it over your fingers when you're using llama on its own. So yeah, that's what I've got planned for next month. Haven't even done this month's, already thinking about next month's. But I think that's about it. So where we are, we're at 59 minutes. So I think I will go make some lunch. I need to go and feed the ducks, because I never fed the ducks this morning. I need to go and sort their salad out. So thank you ever so much for watching today and joining in my live chat. If you've got any questions or queries, or you want me to go and find out some information, drop it in the comments below, or you can tag me on my social media and drop me a message on there. And if I don't know the answer offhand, I will go and hunt it down. Or anybody else, if you want to bounce some ideas off of me, if you're not feeling inspired or you're a bit stuck, again, just drop me a message when it comes to colours or ideas of what to do with things. If you're not happy with the way things look, give me a shout and I will help you solve your predicaments. So thank you very much, everybody. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you Saturday live new on Instagram. If not, I'll see you next Wednesday. Thank you.